IPMNation.com.
Good evening and welcome to All Natural Being here on IPMNation.com. Thank you so very much for joining us. We're just a few seconds away for kicking it off over on Facebook, but I wanted to hang out here for a second and thank you so very much for making us number one here on the platform. We've got a lot of things that we're building to try to do here in the days and weeks ahead, but I wanted to thank you for every bit of the part that you've played. A special thank you to Matt Connerton here at IPM Nation, along with Jenny. Thank you so very much for everything you do to keep the show up and running and for putting up with us, to be quite honest. So thank you very much for all that. All right, here we go. Let's get ready. We're going to go ahead and kick it off right now.
Live from the Outpost Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy, brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. Been a busy day, but I wanted to quick, before I get into all that, thank you for stopping by the number one rated show here on IPMNation.com, episode 269 of The Gong Heard Round the World. You're in to All Natural Being, broadcast as it happens here, as I said, on IPMNation.com. And Facebook for Fly on the Wall video, live from the Outpost Studios here in Columbus, Ohio, with rebroadcast now on iTunes and over at iHeartRadio as well. Greetings wherever you are, here in the Garden of the Mortals. Top of the day, whatever the time zone is. Top of the day from the truest parts of your mind. Because life, it's your labyrinth, your shot at running the table. That's why we're always putting your heart's highest priority top of the list. Placing your primal scream front and center in your life. And we're all about reinstalling and reinstating your true wit, the true wisdom of your inner whisper. We believe it's time for you to reboot your robust, to find your ferocious, to output the brutal that is the cut and shuffle that fate deals on a daily basis, and to bring your own bold once and for all. But before we hit it this evening, hello to my friends here in the United States, Canada, Mexico, the UK, my good friends in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany, Italy, France, Japan, Turkey, Sweden, Singapore, Israel, South Africa, Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands. To those joining us from all over the globe, it's great to have you with us. I truly am fired up to be driving your bandwagon, to be your biggest fan, to be avidly you. Let me ask you, are you tired of being institutionalized by the intentions of others? Convicted by the constructs of those around you, remanded to a prison of the rhetoric of what they want from life? Me too. That's why it's time to mortal up. So what do you say? Let's go kick in some doors. And this evening, before I get to the thread and say hello to everybody, I'm hoping maybe you can help me out a little bit with something. I know that as we started All Natural Being, and we've been together now almost 200, Monday will be the 270th episode. You've stuck with me through everything, and I can't thank you enough for all of that. And you know that my belief in all natural being. It's true. People say, well, sometimes you can be a little more kick-ass than kumbaya. Ooh, that's true, right? But that ultimately, I like to always find the absolute best in humanity. They're all natural being. I like to find the absolute best in the individual. But I think what's started to happen of late is that there are a lot of things that stand in line and that attempt, if Marcellus is watching, attempt to chop block us at every turn. So that we go, okay, great, yes, I'm all over this concept of our all-natural being, but you have to admit at times, as an old teacher of mine said, that sometimes compassion is only compassion if it has teeth. So the more I realized that I wanted to start talking to people, especially post a brain tumor, that I wanted to start talking to people about releasing their all-natural being while they still had time, I realized that there's a whole other force, if you will. I don't want to be all Star Wars-ish, or there's the dark side and the light side. I don't want to be all that way about it. But that there is a force, I call it fate, that attempts to do whatever it can to derail you at every turn. And I think maybe almost like 7-year cicadas, that every so often there comes a time where you have to stand and you have to draw your line in the sand and you say, I'm just not going to let those forces that are contrary to humanity, I'm not going to let them run unchecked. I'm going to stand. You want to target someone? Target me. And I think as we started to do some of that, more and more examples just bubbled up. And I want to get to it this evening. I had posted quickly, WhatABully over at WhatABurger. And what do you think about it? So here in a little bit, if you get a chance, give us a call, 855-GUTLESS. Or 855-488-5377 if you want to jump on. Let us know what you think about the thing. I don't know if you happen to hear about it, but a guy goes up to, a couple of teenagers, takes their pop, their Diet Pepsi, whatever it is they serve at WhatABurger, takes their Diet Pepsi, throws it, tosses it at them, right? And then through all that, rips his hat off his head. He's got a MAGA hat on, I guess. Rips the hat off his head and steals the hat. I guess a big guy, was a bouncer at a local bar. So he decides to not only rob this teenager, and only decides to throw the pop in his face because of something that he's wearing, right? I would imagine still protected by the First Amendment, right? Although, it's been a long day. Maybe I haven't seen the news. I think it's still protected by the First Amendment. Throws this pop in the kid's face, and then takes the hat and walks out. And I later saw in the article that this individual, and I talk about lowlifes making headlines, he's the winner for today. Lowlife making headlines. I think he was charged by the police department when they finally found him. Oh, he was crafty, though. Don't worry about that. He had a beard and glasses and everything else at the time of the assault, at the time of the robbery. Police later called it theft of person. Really not sure. If you live in San Antonio, if you live in Texas in that area, you know what theft of person is. You drop in on the thread and let us know what what that is. Theft of person, because you have an assault and you have a robbery, right? If instead of taking the kid's hat, he took the kid's wallet, we'd be talking robbery. So how is it any different? It had some kind of financial value to it. He went over, strong-armed him. He used, right? Now we're going to be calling for the abolishment of Diet Cokes, right? Because the guy was armed. He had a weapon, right? So no longer you're going to be able to have a big gulp of Diet Coke, I guess, right? But in any event, he uses this, trounces the kid with it, strong arms him, squares his shoulders, steals his hat, and books out the door. But don't worry, he's a crafty criminal, this guy, because he shaves his beard and he loses his glasses. You look at the mugshot of this guy, when they finally catch up to this lowlife, you look at the mugshot, doesn't look like anything in the video. So again, I go back, you're thinking, well, Bri, you got to go a little easier on people that put up these tweets over on Twitter because they got a strange case of courage of the thumb or courage of their index finger, whatever you use to post a tweet. And then all of a sudden something goes around. They go, oh, I got to delete that, right? I'm catching a lot of crap on air about on the social media. Oh, I got to delete that. I can't have that up there, right? Instead of having the courage to actually stand by your little bit of wit and wisdom, right? You go ahead and delete your tweet. Well, this guy goes ahead and decides to shave his beard, lose the glasses, loses everything. So maybe so that he can't be detected. I don't know. Who knows? But in any event, in the 24 hours since the video went down, or the 48 hours since the video went down, he's now clean shaven, no glasses, and they find him. And I thought to myself, whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So now it's sticks and stones and hats with logos or slogans or hats representing things I don't like. They'll break my bones too. So now I can go ahead and assault somebody. I can go ahead and do what I want to. I can rob someone and beat them up, or I can cover them with Diet Coke and whatever else. So I just wondered, what's your thought on that? What has happened to our overall sense of self, where people feel, talk about a depraved indifference to human life, where they can go up and just bully another human being. They can go up to a perfect stranger, douse them with a Coke, and steal their stuff. What has happened? 855-488-5377. By now, you know that's 855-GUTLESS. Let me say hello to everyone. Henry, good evening to you as well. Oh, boy, what will he say tonight? Unleash. There you go. Thank you very much, Sue. Donna, hello. Janile, hello. Lisa, hello. Sarah, hello. Marie, hello. Brother Wallman, hello. Thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. We're talking about this evening what's happened to any type of mortal clarity. What's happened to any type of civility, where now there's bars that will throw you out if your hat says something, or you can't wear a shirt that says this, or you can't have an opinion. You know, we talked earlier in the week about Professor Dershowitz, and like now all the people, I shouldn't say all the people, some of the liberals in Martha's Vineyard, I believe it's called, Martha's Vineyard, are now ostracizing him because he stands up for what's right. He stands up for the Constitution. He stands up for the lack of tyranny. But if you're at a WhatABurger having this, apparently at least a pop, right? If you're at WhatABurger having a pop, now off-duty bouncers can come up, grab your drink, splash you in the face with it, steal your stuff, and they get arrested a few days later for theft of person. I don't even know what that means. It's a robbery. But again, getting over the whole, just putting behind us the law enforcement nomenclature. Parenting. Boy, Sarah, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? But getting over all that, what's happened to our sense of decorum? What's happened to our sense of civility? And I know we're going to be hanging out with Henry Noel here in a little bit, and we'll talk some about the ego, and we'll talk about what exactly that means. But if you stop and think about it, the ego's running amok in some of these people. And then I saw an article this evening, and again, all natural being, right? You and I were just here trying to flourish, trying to be cool to our families. Thomas, good evening. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Nice to see your icon pop up. We just want to thrive. We just want to have fun. We want to be here in life and enjoy our family and our friends and the things that we endeavor. And now we got nuts running around. I hear that someone wrote an article today that says, this trade war with China, it could lead to a real war. So now, again, the intelligentsia, the political class, however you want to call it, political pundits, all the different propaganda, we're going to end up picking a fight. And some people say, you know what, Sarah? You're absolutely right. Entitlement. Some people are going to say, this country's entitled to go to war with that country. And then here you and I, right, just getting ready for the weekend, having the thrill of our lives, being still alive. But then the powers that be are going to pick wars and run the risk of getting us all killed over what? So, admittedly, we can focus on our all-natural being. But there comes a time, from time to time, where we have to be able to stand and go, we're just not taking it anymore. All right, let's take a quick call. We're just not going to take it anymore. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who do we got on the line? Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening, Mr. Brawdy.
Hey, Brother Henry, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. How are you this evening?
Well, Mr. Noel, we were just talking about what happens collectively to a human mind where it's okay to go in, throw a drink in someone's face, steal their hat because you're a big tough guy that works at a local bar as a bouncer, right? Who then you're so tough in order to evade detection, you think, oh, I better go home and shave this beard because that video, that's going to go viral. But I guess more importantly, what's happened to us with the rest of us, we're just trying to have fun, trying to, make a few dollars here and there, trying to have fun in life. Now we got to be worried that we're going to be assaulted by some nut because he doesn't like the hat we wear, or the way we comb our hair, or the way we look. I mean, I should have realized that, Henry, years ago, growing up with a hair lip, right? There's always something about the way you look that's going to set people off. But now, right, we can be the subjects to an assault and a robbery because someone doesn't like the logo on our hat?
Lord knows. I'll be honest with you. My brother Wayne and I were talking about this just a little bit earlier, and both of us are just absolutely dumbfounded that to go through that. There's just no explanation. There's not a justification. I don't even think it warrants attention. I think it's just the state of where we're going.
I would agree with you that it doesn't warrant attention, but you know what I mean? I said the line the other day. I woke up one day realizing I wasn't sharpest knife in the drawer, so I just decided to be the ice pick. Right? Right? For me, you're like, Brian, it's pretty smart to probably let that go. Yeah, I don't think I will. Right? Because here's this guy who's a bouncer. He's a big, tough guy in a bar standing there with his arms all folded. Wuss. And then goes up to a couple of little, smaller kids, douses them, steals their stuff, and then walks out of the Whataburger like he's some big, badass. But I guess what's happened, and as Sarah said, it's a sense of entitlement, she said parenting. I'm going to say the lack of parenting. Hello, Janice. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us on All Natural Being. But what happens, Henry, if we don't begin to stand up, if there isn't someone that draws a line in the sand and goes, that kind of attitude is just not going to be acceptable? What happens to us long term if someone finally doesn't stand up and go, all right, I've had about enough of your crap?
Well, I'm more of the kumbaya type of guy. That I tend to like to maintain control of myself, at least, not get angry, not get judgmental, and not do all that sort of stuff. But I think sometimes you just want to pick up a steel chair and beat him over the head with it. I mean, yeah, I have to agree with that.
Well, I had a teacher one time that says sometimes compassion is only compassion if it has teeth. Right?
Well, I think in a manner of speaking, I think that's true. Understanding that you can live your life the right way, everything to do exactly the things, do all the right things, and wake up dead the next morning. It doesn't matter. It's what happens to us afterwards. It's not the present that is the present form and the present life that we're in. That's the focus. I think it's really what we're supposed to be learning while we're here. To take us when we do leave this form. And it doesn't answer your question. It doesn't justify what everybody does to each other. And like I said, sometimes you just really got to grab a stick to get their attention. I'm not sure how you correct a lot of that stuff. I know how we can correct those that want to change, that want to see things change. But when somebody has a motivation to be an idiot, I don't know how you stop them unless they learn to stop themselves.
No, I would say that that's probably true. And I would say that what will happen in this case, no doubt, is he'll end up with a nice little jail term because you just can't steal people's stuff. You just can't assault people and everything else. But ultimately, I guess for me, like you say, well, you don't want to draw attention to it. We don't necessarily want to focus on it. But how is it that we can develop then, I said in a post that I wrote earlier in the week, a little bit of elbow room for ourselves, right? That it's good to have boundaries. It's good to have it set so that the trolls in our life aren't able to just run amok and do everything that they want, to counterbalance what it is that we want to do to be happy, right? So it's good to have some elbow room from time to time. And I'm wondering if this isn't a perfect example. We see now that, people are being shouted down, people are being yelled at and assaulted and everything else. And then I think it happens at a time because the people doing the assaults, the people doing the shouting down, they think they can get away with it They've been doing it for so long. You know, you can't blame an animal if it gets to if it gets to hunt a certain way and it always is responsible for the win, right? It always gets the kill. You can't very well blame the animal because you've been a pushover the whole time. Want to say good evening to Janile as well. What do you think, Henry? I mean, sooner or later, don't we draw the line in the sand and say, all right, I've had just about enough of that?
Yes, we do tend to draw the line. That doesn't make it right. It just, yes, we do tend to draw a line because we are reactionary. We do react to what's going on. Instead of being proactive, we react. That's one thing we do very well. We react. And the issue at hand is it's very difficult. Obviously, you do the things like avoid as much as you can the trolls that are out there and people that breed the unhappiness. So you try to avoid that as much as possible. But you don't have to lock yourself into a cave either.
Sure.
You live your life. You go out there and you do what you want to do. The problem is you're right. People go to a McDonald's and find themselves shot. People drive down the street and find themselves run off the road. It's pervasive, and society has literally it's gone off the deep end. And I still would like to believe that it is correctable. I think with any way of life or any form or stance that you want to make, you make the stand long enough, somebody's going to come up with an opposing stand, and this is what we're going to face all the time. And so right now, everybody is trying to get their little 15 seconds of fame and notoriety, and that's what part of it is what they're doing.
Well, this guy's going to get his he's already got his 15 seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks of fame. And I'm hoping that other people will look at it and go, yeah, you know what? Today I was out and I had to run a couple of errands. And I'm coming down the parking lot of the particular store, and here's a guy on his phone, texting, walking right down the middle of the street. I mean, literally down the middle of the street. So you know me, in an attempt to always be kumbaya, I waited till he got right up to the hood, and I laid on the horn. and like he was stunned, and he wanted to jump up and go, what are you doing? And then he realized he walked out into the middle of the street. Right? And he wasn't, I want to make sure you understand, he wasn't crossing the street. He was walking down the length of the street towards the hood of my car. And it wasn't until I laid on the horn that he woke up. So I guess the question is, what's it going to take for people to wake up so that we're not busy assaulting people? We're not busy shouting them down. I mean, whatever happened to the First Amendment right? To both say what you think and to be able to hear what you want to hear without automatically threatening people, without automatically going to guns, without covering them, like I said, with a diet pop and stealing their stuff. How do we correct stuff like that?
Well, I think that was an attempt when they started going into this political correctness stuff, and I think that just made things so much worse. Like I said, it's just gotten down to where people are so thin-skinned. They take offense to everything that's done. And it's getting to a point now where, I mean, even trying to read a news article, when they write the article, the words that they use with the article are so politically correct to not offend anybody. I didn't realize rocks had feelings, and maybe they do. But I mean, the way they write things, you can't even say anything bad about a rock, and it just floors me that we have gone that far. We're so defensive, and I think that's part of the issue: defensiveness. Again, we are reactors. We very few times are we proactive. We react to everything. Somebody pushes, we push back. Somebody swings, we swing at them. Somebody backs up, we back up a little further. We react to what our environment is dictating to us. And that's part of our problem. Reaction places us in a defensive mode. And I'm not saying to be offensive, but I think the people down here in Ecuador have a wonderful saying about the way they drive here. They are aggressively defensive. And and if you're down here, you really understand what that means. I mean,
Sure.
you come into a roundabout, which is what they have here instead of stoplights and things like that. Most of the major intersections have roundabouts, and you approach the roundabout very aggressively because you want to get out there. But you better be ready to step on that brake in an instant because someone's going to be a little bit more aggressive than you.
Right. Well, that's what I'm amazed at even here now when you see people driving. And it's as if that sense of thin skin extends to just outside their vehicle, where people say, oh, there was an example of road rage. Well, it just seems like an overall or an underlying human rage where everyone's just so ready to go. You talk about a powder keg. Everyone's just so ready to go. And I suspect if we could interview this former bouncer, the WhatABully at WhatABurger, he would just say, yeah, I just snapped. And I would agree, probably so. He's probably not a bad guy, right? Other than the fact that he won tonight's Low Life making headlines. I'm sure he's not a bad guy, but he snapped. So what can the rest of us do? Right? Because we don't want to be like that. But at the same time, sooner or later, people are going to go, I'm tired of being victimized. I'm tired of being yelled at. I'm tired of having political correctness corral my thoughts and my words and my actions. What's it going to take for there to be a tipping point where the pendulum, Henry, starts to swing back the other way?
I think realization, reality, a real reality check. We're dealing with a system, political systems, religious systems, social systems that don't work anymore. They simply just don't make any sense anymore. We've been taught when we are out of our element and we're really down, we're really trying to figure out things. Contact your officials, your leaders, your authorities, because they have the answers and they will help you out. Your religious leaders will help you out. There's nobody there to help you out.
Right.
They're in it for themselves. Everybody's in it for themselves. And the concepts of righteousness, the concepts of being responsible, don't exist anymore. They're like they took them out of the dictionary. They just don't make any sense anymore. How do you trust politicians when there's so much corruption going on?
Mm-hmm.
How do you trust what a government agency says when they're made up of the people from the corporations that they're supposed to police? How do you trust your religious leaders when they're embroiled in pedophilia cases? We've lost our mentors. We've lost them. And I think we are struggling through all of that. I think humanity in itself is struggling.
Well, then I guess I would ask, in the context of all natural being, what does it take, when you're sick and tired of the trolls, when you're sick and tired of all these other malformations, let's say, of political correctness, that you go, yeah, you know what? I'm tired of being treated like that, and I'm tired of being treated like that, and I'm tired of treating myself that way, because ultimately it comes down in the end to what you stand for. Good evening, Chief Fleming. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Right? But sooner or later, you're going to get people that go, and then we always hear about the silent majority. Well, it's really a silent minority that can derail just a general sense of happiness in your life. And people say, oh, the silent majority will come back around. Yeah, but there's also a silent minority that's at the other end of the spectrum that's going to go, I'm tired of being pushed around. I'm tired of just all the different things that seem to encroach on putting my heart's highest priority top of my list. And sooner or later, I call it the backlash of the blacklisted, right? When you can't have a particular opinion, you can't have a feeling. Someone's going to be offended, someone's going to be outraged, someone's going to be injured, someone's going to be upset. I saw a thing the other day where there was a T-shirt company that had a T-shirt, boys will be boys, and it was yanked down. Because an individual complained that, that's not the kind of thing that we should have on T-shirts anymore. So there's very little that stands to defend, other than you, the individual, very little that stands to defend your First Amendment right. And when I say First Amendment, I just don't mean, as I said in a post the other day, Henry, I just don't mean the Declaration of Independence here in the United States, because I view the Declaration of Independence as a redeclaration of the basic freedoms that are native, if you will, to human beings. The right to be free to assemble, to be free to speak, to be the freedom of the press, and those types of things. So sooner or later there'll be a backlash where people will go, and I'm just not going to stand up for it anymore. We let the people push us, they push us, they push us, they push us. Then there's going to get a point where people go, "Now I'm done being pushed around." And I think we're getting close to that point.
And I'm afraid you're right. I think we are getting to that point. I mean, we can control ourselves. I mean, we can be responsible for ourselves and do everything we can so that we're not mimicking what's going on out there and not let that affect us. But when you're physically accosted, when you are defamed or libeled, yes, it gets to be frustrating, to say the least. And I think you're right. I think we are at a point where push is going to come to shove at some point in time, and it is going to hit. I mean, we're living in a different country. We have our own set of issues, and it is interesting how some of the basic constructs of humanity fit pretty much everywhere. I mean, no matter where you are, so long as you have a government, you're going to have corruption. That's
Sure.
a gimme, I think, at this point. And so that's going to happen. Well, to what extent, it's hard to say. But when it gets to the point to where all of a sudden the person leading your country is now out of office and there's some guy wearing a uniform that just took over the country, that becomes an issue. And you're right. I think people just don't want to stand back and take that anymore. And I can't blame them. I mean, I really do believe the U.S. is facing a lot of stuff, and it is extremely aggravating. And we can't seem to get people to wake up enough to understand the direction it's going until they get there. Most people don't change until they're forced to. Bottom line, we get comfortable sitting in our living rooms in our nice reclining chair, and then when we come home one day and our recliner is gone, we're no longer comfortable.
Well, I think that's what we talk about in terms of all natural being, right? You talk about putting your heart's highest priority top of the list, and then one day you go, all right, someone's trying to knock me off of my stride. Someone's trying to, burglarize my healthy sense of self, and pretty soon.
Right.
Good evening to Lisa. Lisa, nice to see your icon pop up. I hope all is well with you. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Don't forget, if you want to give us a call, it's toll-free, 855-488 5377 855 Gutless. If you, and I had gotten a couple of other examples earlier today of truly gutless behavior. And the reason, like you said, Henry, we don't want to highlight it, but I like the idea of at least calling it out from time to time because it gives us something to push back against, and it gives us the ability to go, that's not what it means to be a human being. Right? That's not what it means to have a human mind, not a hamster mind, not a lobster mind, not a praying mantis mind, an actual human mind. And this is what you're going to use it for?
Well, it'd be the same as well with your encounter with the gentleman with the texting down the center of the road. I mean, what it does is it releases enough of the stresses that you don't simply want to make him a hood ornament. Which would have been one of the choices to make. That's not the direction we want to go. We want to have that constraint and that control. Now, he's not harming anybody, but, yes, if you were sitting in that Whataburger with that gentleman that walks in, and I use that term non-judgmentally, you'd probably throw him through a window. I mean, that's literally what it would be like. So, we're trying to control ourselves. We know we can't control anybody else, and we barely can control ourselves. So we have to do everything we can to try to do that.
And what would you say would be a good jumping off point for that? Because I think here's my take, if I could. I love the idea, as you know, of all natural being. I've always liked the idea of sparking in the individual his or her wild at the core. But then after it's been depressed for so long, after it's been knocked down for so long, after it's been ostracized or shunned, or it's been on the opposite side of what the status quo believes to be political correctness, it's just downright healthy to stand up for yourself. It's right, because if we're talking about, enlightenment, which you and I we talk about quite often, if we're talking about some of these things, then ultimately enlightenment is about being who you truly are. And who you truly are is never meant to be victimized. It's never meant to be put in the back seat. It's never meant to be put in the junk drawer, right? It's not meant to be put down on the discount tchotchke marked down price table underneath some flashing blue light in the back of a 5 and dime store. It just wasn't meant for it to be like that. Or humanity never would have made it off the savannas of Africa, or it never would have made it day 2 after having been evicted from the Garden of Eden. That's just not who we are. It's not what we're made of. So do you think at times it's just plain downright healthy to go, yeah, I'm not taking that crap from you anymore? And people get to stand up for themselves. And it may be, you could say, well, Bri, it's just as healthy to stand in the mirror and go, I'm not going to take that crap from you anymore either.
No, not at all. It's hard. Yes, you're all natural being, and let's work with that just for a minute. Define your all natural being. I mean, remember, everybody's all natural being is based and predicated on their upbringing, their religious backgrounds and belief systems, what they've learned in their educational systems, and then what their DNA tells them to do and how to act. So we have major limitations on our all-natural being right from the get-go. When you realize that our intention and our purpose is not to be living the way we live, it's not to have all of this strife and this fighting and all of this conflict and the discrimination, and we are one race. We are human beings, and we all are members of that race. So we are all brothers and sisters, and nothing else really should matter. Well, of
Agreed.
course, we know everything does matter. So where is the all-natural being really coming from? Is it from the onset of the fact that we simply are supposed to be in just brothers and sisters and family, and this is the way we're supposed to react and protect each other? Or is it after ego is entered into the picture and we now become protective of ourselves and really offensive to anybody who wants to stand in our way? That's when, now, once we can define what all natural being means and is really referring to, then, yes, then we can proceed.
And I think for me that all natural being, at least my understanding of it or definition of it, predates even that. I like the Buddhist part. What did you look like? What was your face? What was your makeup before your parents ever met? So for me, that all natural being is a blend of ultimate human potential. And then that potential is thrown out into the labyrinth of life, right? The ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, the pivots, the swerves, all of it. That potential is thrown into the labyrinth of life, and then you dictate the probability, the increased probability of where you're going to fall in that labyrinth, where you're going to fall in that spectrum. So for me, all natural being is more about the ultimate and human potential. Good evening, Barth. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us, brother. It's all natural being is about that human potential, and anything that stands in the way of that potential, as you say, education, a propaganda from the political class, the philosophic class, the priestly class, anything that stands in the way of that ultimate potential is what I find to be contrary to all natural being, and I find it to be, oddly enough, the home of the ego. It's contrary to what that potential can be when you get out of your own way, I guess I would say.
Yes, and I'd have to agree with you at that point, yes. Because then when you look at it, it's then not part of our character, or would not be part of our potential, to have to even present a circumstance that would be conflictive with someone else because of responsibility, respect, and all of that other stuff. So, yeah, when you remove all of that and you place ego in that mix, then we come to what we're dealing with today. And yes, defend yourself, absolutely. I mean, what you have to. You don't have a choice. You know, you people are abusive of their definition of their all-natural being. I mean,
Sure.
This is my seat, and I'm going to take you and throw you out of the seat because
Sure.
I want that seat.
Sure.
Okay, but it's yes, that's where we come to, and that's where we are right now, and that's what you're seeing happen. Is we have lost it. We have completely lost it as a species, and we are finding we don't even need an excuse anymore to get in somebody's face. We can just simply do it because, well, that's me, and that's what I'm going to do. And it's really a hard uphill battle. I know for people like me trying to get everyone to understand why we're here and for what length of time that we're here, what we're supposed to be doing, and trying to improve ourselves when the guy next door to you just shoots bullets in your house. It's really
Right.
hard to get people to be calm and relaxed, and it just doesn't work sometimes.
I would agree. Good evening, John. Thank you for joining us here on All Natural Being. Don't forget, if you want to give us a holler, got a question for Henry, or you want to give us an example of just absolute gutless behavior that you've seen. Hello to you as well, John. Some gutless behavior that you've seen, something that you definitely go, oh, I don't want to model that. Give us a call, 855-488-5377. It's finally toll-free, which is kind of nice, Henry, right? I don't have to go through that whole, local rates may apply or whatever. So it's toll-free number, 1-855-GUTLESS. If you want to give us a holler and an example of some gutless behavior, because it just seems anymore, Henry, that's all we see in the news. Now, let me say this. I saw a quick little text come over earlier about a Navy SEAL that lost his life, and I believe, where did I see this? Where are the young soccer team trapped in the cave? Is that in Thailand? I believe that story's unfolding now. Henry, do you know? If someone knows here in the thread, let me know. But a large group of young soccer players went spelunking, and the rains blew in and trapped them in the cave. Well, one of the Navy SEALs that went to save them died, suffocated because of the lack of oxygen in the cave. So you look at that type of selfless humanity. You look at the type of what you would do to save another person, right, to help another person out, that recognition. Who was it that said that I and the other are one? I think it was Schopenhauer in The World is Will, when he talks about that instant metaphysical realization that you and the other are one. At least Joseph Campbell's take on what Schopenhauer wrote. And here's this guy today that gave up his life to try to save these other people. Thai. Thank you, Bart, very much. Yes, Thailand. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bart. And he gave up his life trying to save another life. And then you juxtapose that with a guy that covers a kid with a Diet Pepsi because he doesn't like what he's wearing.
Yeah.
So the people say, oh, well, Brian, you have to be compassionate. Well, no. I'm getting to the point where I go, look, there are human beings that will do like this SEAL did in Thailand today, lay down his own life in an attempt to save someone else. And then you got this gutless behavior of a bouncer that thinks he's a tough guy and walks in, assaults someone, and steals their hat. It's just two totally different ends of the spectrum. You have your human beings, and you have your human gettings, one just riddled with ego, and the other one going, if I have to, well, I'm going to buy the farm, trying to save this young soccer team.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right, Brian. And I think that when you realize, what you're trying to do on the show, is to try to make people aware and to waken themselves up and to get a better grip on what's going on and understanding as to why they are the way they are, or why their life they've got. But when you look at the stories that are out there, there are so many unbelievably giving stories that people have done. Spent years working on a beach to clean up all the plastic that's on there. To save sea animals and saving birds that are tangled up in all of this stuff, and eliminating that from happening, letting turtles come back in and laying their eggs, and now the next generation is going to survive and do well. This Navy SEAL who actually gave up his life to try to save other people. I mean, there are so many wonderful stories out there of people that have just selflessly, just gone out there and done what they needed to do. But what do we hear about? We hear about the guy that is an idiot.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And that's what we do. If we didn't hear about those stories, maybe they'd stop happening and these people wouldn't be being idiots, and maybe the same guy would be buying a Coke for the next kid that's sitting at a table. Who knows?
Sure.
But the program with negativity and negativity and negativity on top of negativity, you become negative.
Well, people have said to me, and I don't know if Chief Fleming is still on here on the thread this evening with us, but people have said, well, what would you do in any of these mass shootings? What would you do in some of these other things? And it's not to slam anyone in the media, because ultimately the media is just right. They're just putting out a menu, and what they put on the menu is what the people that come to their restaurant want. Mm-hmm. Right, so I've gotten past the point of saying, "Oh, it's the media's fault." Yeah, the media is just, to a certain degree, giving the people that come to their table what they want. That you're not going to make it as an Italian restaurant if all you serve are hamburgers, right? People come to your restaurant because they want Italian food, so people come to the news because they want to hear that kind of doom and gloom. But then you look at stories like that and you go, "Look, when you have one of these mass shootings, I'd never put the person's face on TV." Right. I'd never give out his name. All these suicide bombers that say, "Oh, I'll live in infamy," or all these things will happen. I would never put their name up. I would never put their picture up. So that other people know moving forward in the future, you know what? That's not going to give me the glory that I thought it was. Right? Exactly. Suicide by cop, all these other things. You'd never hear their name. Klebold, some of the other names that we know that are tied to some of the worst shootings in the history of our country, or any country. We should never even have to hear their names. But no, it's a big deal. Let's do this, let's do that, let's talk about, how their childhood was. Let's talk about how life treated them. Let's talk about who they are and this and that. Nope. You want to do your life story, become an actor, and go have Oprah interview you. But as far as I was concerned, they would never, no one will ever hear your name. And I think that would stop all this. But that's just me. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think that is, at least that's a definite step in the right direction. I think by keeping that information down, or keeping the specific information down, I think leaves it to the handful of people that know the person. But no, not everybody around the world would do that or know it. And so I think it is hard to do. I mean, I understand that networks run on ratings, and the more people that watch, there's the higher ratings. And the more ratings means they can charge more for their advertising. So it means more money. Bottom line, it means money, and that's really what this is all about. Everything that we deal with is about money for somebody. And that's, I think, part of what it is. So yes, if we could ever get people to be convinced to simply just don't broadcast specific information, names like that, and let it happen. See if it changes. I think there was a push one time to try to get a day where there was no negative news that was broadcasted at one time. It didn't work, but
right. I remember years ago they wanted to broadcast an NFL football game, and they were going to do it without announcers.
Yeah,
right. That didn't last very long either. Chief, yes, thank you for the memory. Chief Fleming says you had some lives saved when you worked at the police department. You have a past of the same. Thank you, Chief, very much. I appreciate it. Had good teachers, good up command when I was there. And I think, and we got to get ready to wrap it up here, Henry, so that everyone can get into their weekend. But what I'd love to call to attention is you wrote a really powerful piece about human perfection. And I don't want to give it away, but I guess I could have said you wrote a really powerful piece about the fallacy, right? About the urban myth of human perfection. So where are you going to put that up? Where are you going to, you know what I mean? Where can people get that? Is it something you're going to record the audio? Is it already posted? Where are you going?
No, I'm going to go ahead and do an audio on it so that I can get it up and put it on SoundCloud, and then I'll get it down to where it's put onto the IPM Nation 4
Groovy.
Live, and then I'm going to publish the article itself. It'll be on my website, so anybody can get there too. It's always everything that goes there. For lack of a better term, these are my thoughts. So this is under my thoughts, and that's where I put all this stuff. And so that's where you can find it.
And I would say to you, Henry, that one of the things that I love about reading, as you call them, your thoughts, is that it's thought-provoking for me. Right? It's very seldom that I read your stuff and I just walk away and go, oh, that was cool. What's for breakfast? Right? So it always causes me to think a little bit deeper than I would have had I not read the piece. So that when you get a chance to throw it up, and then over here in the thread, we'll put it up so that people and get a chance to hear what you talked about with human perfection. All right. Henry, thank you so very much. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend. And we're looking forward, believe me, we're looking forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Okay. And you take care. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you. And please start calling in. Leave me hanging out here on the phone.
Somebody, well, you know what? I'm beginning to wonder if the number works. Bart, it's a toll-free call. Just dial the damn number. 855-488-5377. 855-GUTLESS. Well, even just to see if it works, Henry. All right, everybody. Henry Noel. We'll see you soon, brother.
Take care.
Take care. Bye now. All right. So as we get ready to wrap up this evening for All Natural Being, let's try it again, right? Just pandering, right? It's just, I'm just like looking for, it's like I'm a hitchhiker with my thumb out going, someone pick me up. Give me a call, 855-488-5377. 855-GUTLESS. Give me a holler. Let me know that the line even works. And if not, as we get ready to ramp down, I would remind you that a part of human health comes when that decision where you say, yes, it's important for me to be altruistic. It's important for me to look to take care of other people. It's important for me to help other people. But it's also important for me to one day decide I'm not going to let anyone push me around. I'm not going to let anyone take advantage of me. I'm not, but through political correctness or any other reason, I'm not going to be victimized anymore. And I think a part of the trouble that we're having is that everyone and their brother wants you to believe it's okay to play the victim. It's okay to act the victim. Thank you, Henry, very much. IPMNation.com/live4. All right, let's see. Okay. Hold on. Good evening. Thank you, and welcome to All Natural Being. Who do we have? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Bart. Who's this?
Who's this? Oh, sorry, wrong number. No, thank you, Bart.
What the hell are you doing?
I don't know. I'm just pandering for, if I'm a politician, I'm pandering. What?
Hey, how come I'm not on the air?
Well, you are. You'd hear it if you could turn down your own radio. You're hearing yourself.
Oh, for the love of
No, hey, thanks. At least now I know.
But that was a great show.
I think, we're still on it. We're still in it. So thank you for the live compliment.
Oh, look,
yeah. So don't give out any banking
I'm a little
information.
Far behind on the call.
Yeah, don't give out any banking information, but thanks. At least I know now. The 855-GUTLESS. What do you think? Is that the way that's the way to do it?
Hey, it was a great show. I'm glad to see the chief on. I'm glad to see a bunch of people on. I think it was spot on. Your caller was spot on, and it's just good to see that these things are being talked about, because we're just, as a society, we're hiding what our children do. We're hiding what some of these folks that we're rearing are doing, and I think it's great that you're bringing out these issues.
Well, Bart, I think about it when we were growing up, and you see some of the. I went to the 4th of July parade the other day, and I thought, man, we never would have gotten away with some of the stuff we see now.
It's unbelievable, Brian. You walk through anywhere, go through your local store or anything else, and look at some of the stuff that these parents are allowing their children to say and to do.
Oh.
It's amazing to me that they just don't. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but it all comes back to parenting, proper parenting, and we're just raising a society of idiots. And if parents don't start to stand up and take care of this issue, we're going to have major problems in the next 10, 15 years. I mean, you already see the problems now.
And Bart, let me ask you, do you think we're
Yeah.
so worried about hurting their feelings? Do you think it's like maybe our parents weren't the best in the world, so we're going to do everything we can to be better than they were? And do you think that we wake up one day and go, maybe the best way to be a good parent is to be a pushover? Is that what's happening?
I think, Brian, I think that's exactly it. You know, we grew up in a time where when you stepped out of line, you got the belt or you got cracked. You know, and now it's like, well, we need to talk to him. We need to sit down and talk to him and try to reason with him. Well, no, he just did something that's way past talking and reasoning. Crack his butt and get him back into line. And people don't do that anymore. And I think it's, in the long run, it's really going to affect society. It's a shame, but people aren't willing to call their kids out, and we see it time and time again. You know, I watched the news this morning, Brian, and I know this is going to hit you hard as it does me, but we just lost another New York State trooper.
Really?
Yesterday morning. He was responding to a domestic.
Okay.
And, he was on his game. He was doing everything he was taught. And it just it didn't work out the way it should have. And you look at these things, and these kids today just think, well, geez, we just lost another soul, or we lost this, or we lost that. There's no remorse. There's no nothing for these kids.
Right.
And it's a shame, especially being in that job as long as you were and as long as I was. It's a shame that these kids don't mourn things like that.
Well, I'll tell you, B, a lot of people will say to me, well, I met a young man the other day who was going into law enforcement, and it's like, I don't know if I would want that gig in this day and age. Back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was a little different. Now, it just seems that the overall lack of respect for human life, and maybe Henry's right. Maybe it's just playing out more in the media. Maybe we're more aware of it because of social media. And I still believe this is a great gig, right? I'm glad I survived the brain surgeries. It's a great gig, but come on.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you brought up because I was talking to John about it the other day. When I used to work for the department, it was fun. I had a blast because, it was going into bar fights and
Sure.
one punch, my punch, your punch, my punch. And it was great. It was a great job to have. Now, you go into any call, and it could be the end of your life.
Sure.
Because it's no longer, there's no, I can't put my finger on it, Brian, but there's no respect for authority anymore.
And there's just no respect for human life in and of itself. No. There's a depraved indifference, right? It's the same lack of respect for another human being that we see. And I think what we talk about here a good bit, Bart, is to make sure that you don't let that lack of respect from the outside weed itself in, so that now you're dealing with your own sense of lack of respect for yourself. And you're right. You call out these parents. You know what I mean? We want to be our kids' friends. As Henry says, we're too worried about being their friends instead of parents. But at some point, you have to stand up even for yourself and go, I deserve boundaries. I deserve my heart's highest calling, and I deserve not to be treated this way.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I really appreciate it. I logged onto the show tonight. You were talking about this near and dear to my heart. And I'm so glad you're at least discussing the issues and trying to get the word out.
Thanks,
but something's got to happen because, we're just taking a turn that's really going to go south on us fast. We don't need to do that. If we just provide a little bit of stability in these kids' lives.
Right.
I think we can get back to where we used to be. And I'm not talking about beatings or anything like that, but just
not at all.
Be a presence in their life.
Right. Well, as you know, Bart, I don't, in terms of the physical part of it, I've never struck another human being that hasn't swung at me first. It's just, right? So for me, but you're absolutely right to be that presence. And I'll leave you with this thought because we're getting ready to go off air. But I remember once someone had said to me that they weren't raising children, they were raising adults. And that one little sentence changed it for me, right? Because we're responsible for raising adults.
Yep. Yeah, and there in itself is, a part of the issue. We need to really look back and think about what was going on. We used to go out in the backyard and we'd play and we'd have fun. And I don't want to tie up your time, but all those simple little things that made us happy.
Right.
And now it's Game Boys, and it's I'm dating myself. I don't think they're called Game Boys anymore, but it's all this electronic devices, and they're playing killing games and this and that. It's crazy.
Right. And no one gets out and climbs a tree. No one gets out and eat dirt. Everyone's worried about a peanut allergy, right? All these other things. So absolutely with you. All right, Bart, thank you so very much for calling in. We're going to go ahead. It's almost the top of the hour. We're going to get out of here. But thank you for testing out the 1-855 Gutless. I just wanted to make sure it even worked. It's great to hear your voice as always, and thank you for the critique.
Great. Oh, and I appreciate everything you're doing.
All right. Thanks so much, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care. Farewell. All right, everybody, thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll be back Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, over the weekend. If you take anything away from the show, maybe it's time to set up your own boundaries. Maybe it's time to say, I'm just not going to let people push me around anymore. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend.
IPMNation.com.